Ashes of Creation is not a PvE game. Stop trying to make it one. Yo, recently, like, a lot of people are actually upset about the PvP in Ashes of Creation, what they have announced and all that, and with the notes. And I want to see what Narc has to say about that, because, like, the opinion is so different. Some people want more PvE, some want more PvP. But yeah, let's find out.
Hey, what up, boys? Man, these content creators and community members are certainly carrying my ad revenue this month. First, we have some woke agendas, then Josh decided to remind everyone he doesn't actually play MMOs. We got the bold man reacting left, right, and center, and Mr. Top 10 MMORPGs to play with no friends. The lucky ghost himself delivering some juicy controversy straight to my door. I didn't even have to pay him like I did with the others, so this is glorious. However, I'm not going to be addressing the topics in the video at hand. I'm sure you've all watched it yourself and have seen various reactions, so you can absorb a bunch of shit takes because you're starving for any kind of content whatsoever. And I admit, I have been withholding your usual dose of copium this month to enjoy my sudden increase in revenue. I'm just so ashamed that I've let down my fellow copium addicts.
Oh no. What a tragedy.
You guys, just please continue to watch those ads. The video in question did bring up some great points and concerns. However, it's important to remember that Ashes of Creation is a sandpark PvP MMORPG. The core gameplay literally doesn't support a pure PvE gameplay style. The game just wouldn't function.
I mean, they did say at the beginning, and this was like years ago even, that they want to have also like a heavy part of PvP in this game. Like, PvP is definitely a big factor. But from what I've heard also in interviews, they do also focus a bit on PvE. Like, what I'm thinking is maybe it's going to be a 50-50 between PvP and PvE in Ashes of Creation. Like, there will definitely be a lot of PvE options. There's a story, there are races, there are different zones you can explore and stuff. There's like a lot of PvP stuff. But there's also the option for like a lot of open world PvP and stuff, and then with the nodes and this and that, and like guild versus guild. Like, I believe, this is like my impression, it's gonna be a 50-50 PvE PvP game. I don't think it's going to be a PvP focused game, and I'm not thinking it's going to be a PvE focused game. But let's see what he discovered. That's like what I'm seeing so far.
Not a pure PvE gameplay style. The game just wouldn't function correctly, and there's quite literally a list of 100 reasons why. So in today's video, we'll be discussing this and much, much more. But before we get into that, our patrons and I would love for you to grab yourself a Coca-Cola, because Ashes of Creation has a lot of systems upon systems governed by mechanics that 99% of the MMO player base don't even know exist. So it's perfectly understandable from an outside perspective, aka the people who don't live, sleep, and breathe Stephen Sharif's farts, that the idea of Ash's open PvP nature is very daunting to the majority. Today, I'm excited to dive into this and hopefully quell some of your worries in anticipation for what really matters: the game actually fucking existing one day. Now, with all that bollocks out of the way, let's begin, shall we? So, to begin today's video, I think it's important to actually discuss what Ashes of Creation is as a game and the goals Stephen and the team are actually trying to achieve here. This highly anticipated MMORPG is not claiming to be a PvE or PvP game specifically. They've stated since the very inception that Ashes of Creation is a PvX MMORPG. But what are...
That's exactly what I said, and now I remember. They used PVX for that. They said they want to give like they want to appeal and like attract both type of players, those that really love the PvP from also other MMOs, and also the PvE area, because there are like a lot of casual players, and usually casual players, they prefer PvE. Because if you don't spend a lot of time in a game, you usually don't have the best in slot gear, right? And you're maybe not so fast with your reflexes in game, and you're not like the best duelist and PvPer. So there has to be also like casual stuff, like easier dungeons and quest lines and zones you can explore. There needs to be like a lot of crafting and stuff, maybe some housing. And this is like what you need in any MMO, because a lot of the people that play your game are casuals. Like, not everyone has like 6-7 hours a day of time to play a video game. Some only have every day 2-3 hours and stuff, because they have like a family, a full-time job and stuff. So it's, I think in my opinion, very important to have a casual area also in a MMO, like something that casuals can do. And yeah, by the way guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content.
What does PVX actually mean? Well, it's a term for people that cannot comprehend what an open-world PvP MMO is. In my opinion, the use of this term has caused some minor damage, not because the devs have not been clear, it's because the people for whom this term was created for cannot quite understand the basic mechanics that govern this game, leading to some severe misconceptions for how the PvP rules actually function. You're dumb. I'm calling you dumb. And because the average IQ of the MMORPG player base is far below average, the term PVX has become a weapon against the development of Ashes. An MMO should have never been divided between isolated PvP and isolated PvE. Players should always be able to interact, kill, or help each other. An MMO is just that, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
It's a traditional
all players exist continuously in the same world.
This is the same with WoW Vanilla. This is how WoW Vanilla was back in the day, where you had a lot of PvE, but you could do open world PvP anywhere. And I remember back in the day when I used to like visit my friend that was like a hardcore World of Warcraft player, and he had like all the good stuff, all the good gear. Like he even and I also would go to like areas, and we would do like open world PvP, and it was a big thing back in the day, because you would have 20 plus people fight against 20 plus people and such, and you would have like those big fights where you see like whole guilds and large groups come at each other and stuff. And I think this was freaking cool. Like I miss those WoW Vanilla days, and it was fun. And you had like, not everyone was sticking to this kind of moral, but you had like a lot of people that would sometimes actually also let low-level players pass by. At least on EU. I'm not sure about like NA or about like what it was later when I stopped playing, but back in the day we had like maybe like 80% of the players actually ignore low-level players, and only 20% would like gank and go for low-level players. It was still a high amount of players that would like harass those low-level players, but yet at least some decent people back in the day. Nowadays, I feel like maybe the number would not be 80% people let low-level players pass and 20% kill them. I think these days is maybe 60% let people pass and 40% kill or something. So I think like most people are actually worried not about like endgame PvP, but they are worried about their leveling experience and their questing experience. So they have like a new character, they reach level 5 or 10, and then they're worried about like high level players come and kill them and they stand no chance. Because the only reason why people don't really like PvP is because they don't like to lose and to die, right? And if you have this where you can attack low level players in MMO, like there will be toxicity and people will be upset and grieving and all that. So yeah.
Not in stages, not instances, not arenas, not raids, not shards, etc, etc, etc. But as the years have gone by and the player base grew up, in name only mind you, they started throwing their toys out of the pram and were insistent that they knew how to run this genre better than the devs who originally created it. So again, what does PVX mean? It doesn't mean
Player
that
versus
you are
anything.
promised a 50-50 split of both PvE and PvP content. It means that the progress of your character is directly affected by your ability to explore the world and use resources, as well as fend off players with which you have a conflict of interest. But there's no denying toxic PvP is a death sentence for most MMOs. Griefing and cannibalism has pretty much killed all MMORPGs that dare call themselves open world PvP. But did they die because of the PvP? Or did they die because they were all jam-packed with infinite amounts of pay to win and zero content to actually engage it? I find it rather strange when people attack this particular—
Oh shit, you know what? He has a good point. I've noticed that too. Like, when more and more PvE stuff was introduced, this was also when like microtransactions were heavily introduced. This happened with World of Warcraft, and same with like Elder Scrolls Online with like the Crown Store. Holy shit, like I remember like PvP actually they cared a little bit about Zero Deal and Elder Scrolls Online back in the day. And then like more Crown stuff was introduced. Like Crown Store stuff. And then I've noticed that they stopped focusing on PvP. They tried to bring out more PvE content, and some stories and zones were actually really good. But same with WoW, like a lot of stuff has reworked. This has been nerfed. This has been changed. Now you have so many storm mounts. A new expansion comes out. This expansion sucks. The next expansion sucks too. Okay, there's now one expansion that's a bit good. The next expansion sucks. And this was the thing, like, sometimes I think that if a company focuses on also like microtransactions, they spread their resources that they could use to make a super good game, right? Because they have to also finance the department that does like those microtransaction things, that designs the store mounts, this and that. So they also get like a paycheck, right? Like they maybe take some people that were actually developing like quests and stuff in areas, and they're now 50% or maybe even 100% into the microtransaction section. And then you see every couple of weeks or months, something new appear, or like the pay to win system that came with like freaking— I still believe actually microtransactions were heavily influenced by like mobile gaming as well, especially like the gacha games. I think like gacha is like very common actually with like freaking mobile games. Like there's so many games here where you can freaking gamble and stuff. It's insane. And I definitely feel like there's some huge impact from the mobile gaming industry on the PC gaming industry. Same with console.
Particular aspect of Ashes when, in the current year, all our popular MMOs are
hollow corpses.
Wow.
And the players who still play them also embody
Hollow corpses.
back before this insidious single-player mentality began to take over roughly 10 or 12 years ago. Community interaction was a core part of this genre, and PvP was a large majority of this. There are no memorable or interesting events that happen in MMORPGs that involve that single-player-esque gameplay loop. It's the massively multiplayer elements that make this genre interesting and unique compared to literally every other genre out there. So let's change gears
That's
a little
true.
and
We don't
actually
have really
discuss
PvP in
Ashes of
Diablo.
Creation's plans for PvP and why it's different to what most of you are probably used to.
But he has a good point, because if you look at like the Diablo games, like we're talking about RPG games now, Diablo games. If you look at the Elder Scrolls games, for example, if you look at The Witcher and stuff, like there's so many cool looking PVE games where there's just PVE and they are single player, right? So if you look at MMOs, they are literally just like RPG games. I mean, you could say like Elder Scrolls Online is sort of like Skyrim, but it has the multiplayer function and stuff, right? Same with freaking— okay, can I compare New World to Witcher? I'm not sure. Like, there are some areas sometimes in New World I'm like, oh, is this in The Witcher? Or something like that. But, like, seriously, like, the thing that makes MMOs is, we have to admit, the multiplayer aspect that also includes PvP. Because, like, PvP is also what actually keeps a game and the content creation scene, especially on Twitch, alive. Because— like a lot of people that watch streamers, they do watch them for dungeons and for maybe doing some questing. But a lot of people watch actually streamers for PvP. If you look on Twitch, what are the most popular streams? They're quite often, unless it's world first, like very up at the top, PvP streams. Like people want to see PvP in MMO games. It is a big part of it. Not everyone likes it, and there's like a split in the community. Some people are more into PvP, some are more into PvE, but it needs to exist. That's my opinion.
So Stephen himself jumped into the comment section and addressed a few interesting things related to the PvP mechanics. This is good for me to pad out this video momentarily for that sweet ad revenue, and I can use this to actually transition us into mechanics that actually already exist and are positively received by the modern MMORPG player base. Stephen started by explaining Ashes of Creation's PvP systems are actually very close to what Lineage 2 had back in the day, modernized slightly to prevent some of the obvious flaws that it had. He touched on how crowd control is treated differently, the disparity between player levels, the nullification of alt characters exploiting the corruption gain, and of course emphasizing the punishment length of being corrupted in comparison to what it was in Lineage 2. But what is this elusive corruption system, I hear you ask? Well, in Ashes of Creation, you can quite literally flag yourself for PvP anywhere in the world with a press of a button and attack anyone, provided they are either 1, not in your group, and 2, not in your guild. Now that may sound scary to you dad gamers out there, as your crippled boomer hands can hardly perform a basic rotation in WoW, but there's a system that actually protects you from being randomly murdered by sweaty neckbeard kids all day, every day. And that system is called corruption. When you brutally murder an innocent to stroke your EP in Ashes of Creation, you're hit with a massive negative status effect that not only makes you a huge target for everyone, but also reduces your performance as a player by a significant amount. The goal for this corruption mechanic, in my opinion, should be to nullify all forms of random pointless murder and punish these so-called griefers in some way, shape or form.
Like, this needs to exist, because I hate this when people that are max level kill low level players all the time, and those that just started the game. Like, imagine you're playing an MMO maybe for the first time, or you just changed from your main MMO, like let's say you are our main World of Warcraft player and you want to now get into Ashes of Creation, but you don't start at launch, you start like 4 or 5 months after launch, for example, because you want to see how the game is. And then like there are people months ahead with gear and level, and they maybe are like toxic people and trolls, and they come to the starting zones and they keep killing low level players, and they actually disgust them out of the game literally by doing this, and then they just disappear, never come back. Like, this is something that I'm worried about, that it kills the player base by those idiots, those trolls that come and kill low level players constantly, and they love and like, ha ha ha, I'm so good, I'm so cool, I can kill all those low level players, look at how strong I am, and stuff. Like, I can't stand those kind of people. They are disgusting, like, seriously.
This system mimics very closely Black Desert Online's
they would get
system.
kicked,
and although
get their ass
BDO
kicked
is
if
very
others were
flawed
their
as
level.
an MMO, leaning on some very single-player aspects, the Karma system works well, and improved upon, can easily create a meaningful open-world PvP environment here in the modern age that complements and encourages the social gameplay we've been missing oh so much. Now, I don't usually react to videos specifically because it's not really my style. Saving that to pad out my streams in the future, you see. But there was a particularly stinky take that I wanted to respond to specifically.
Wait, what did Asmon say?
Take it away, Asmon.
Every time that you give one player agency over another player's experience in a video game without their consent, you will 9 times out of 10 create an outcome that is bad for the game.
That's true.
That's just what happens.
Yeah, but that's true.
Players interacting with each other is bad for the game.
That's just what happens.
No, he didn't mean it like...
This can't be real.
It depends on what kind of interaction. If, like I said earlier, if you are like doing something to someone that just wants to go about their business, do their questing, and you keep harassing them by attacking them constantly, this is a negative result that will result from this.
You can't be serious, I must be misunderstanding. Yes, yes. I know. The way I can truly understand
Copium
it is to
crystals, what?
assume a
Everything
new
copium.
form. The only form that could understand this take. Now, Asmongold has some pretty bad takes when it comes to MMOs these days, and this particular reaction was a nice compilation that encompasses everything wrong with modern MMORPGs, but that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. They may be wrong, but diversity is exactly what I advocate for here on this channel. Without diversity, Ashes of Creation cannot make the correct choices. But I want to follow this up with an anecdote about risk versus reward and why PvP is important to me as an artisan main, aka a player who quite literally doesn't give two shits about combat. And I'm going to do this by
I'm like
taunting
that
my
too.
favorite bunch of low IQ brainlets.
I can do
New
both
World
PvE and
was
PvP.
ass. Its combat was trash, its endgame was non-existent, and the moment-to-moment gameplay loop was boring. However,
like the thing about combat in New World, and this is my opinion on it, it looks way too simple. I don't think the animations are fleshed out. I think like when you swing a weapon, it looks sometimes a bit clunky. Like I don't know. I think like they could have done a bit better with like the combat animations, in my opinion. Like it's cool that you can freaking dodge stuff and block stuff and all that. Like it's nice, but I don't think it looks like fleshed out. If you look at like the combat animations, do you guys love the combat animations? The way like weapon swings and spells look like in New World? Like let me know in the comment section. I didn't like it as much. I think they could have maybe added like some bigger explosions and stuff, or when you swing a sword, you're like spinning in the air or something. Kind of like BDO or so, right? Like some cool combat moves would have been nice, and not like you swing a whip like, huh. Like this is how combat looks like to you. Like twin weapon, you're like, and a spell is like just as like this size, like a fireball, like a small one. Why can't we have like huge fireballs or something flying at enemies? Like I think they need maybe some rework, some of the animations, make it look more cool. I don't know.
Endgame was non-existent, and the moment-to-moment gameplay loop was boring. However, the thing that really ruffled me up was the gutting of their core PvP features in favor of appealing to as wide of an audience as possible. Originally, New World was supposed to be a faction-based open-world PvP game. However, Amazon, being the marketing geniuses they are, decided to implement a toggle-on PvP feature last minute. This feature is also known as War Mode, the final nail in the coffin for World of Warcraft's open world PvP, giving players the ability
PvE
to
servers
opt
were made,
out of PvP in a game that is supposed to be PvP focused, completely destroys any value that travel had, the socialization has, but most importantly, the economy has. I was
It would work if there was good PvE content. Like the thing is like this. If you're doing something where you can have war mode on and off, like switch PvP on and off, that means if you're someone that wants to just do questing or explore, like there needs to be something to explore and quest to that is interesting and nice, because then it doesn't matter really, right? But if this is like with New World, and like he said, it's a PvP focused game, and there's barely any PvE content. Of course, this is a death sentence, because the majority of the content is around PvP, and you actually give players the option to exclude themselves from this, right? So they only get like the small portion of the game that they can enjoy, and the small portion is maybe not enough to keep them in the game. Yeah, I still sometimes think the best thing is for any MMO to have two servers, PvP and PvE server. This is my honest opinion. And from this, you can also study people. Like I've said this in my last Ashes of Creation video. This is good for like Steven, because you can study people's behavior and their liking. Like you can see, is it now in these days where most people prefer PvE, or do more people prefer PvP? Because those that constantly get their ass kicked, they're going to move to a PvE server, and maybe they're still going to enjoy the game, right? Or they're super casuals, because they never have like max gear and max skill and all that, right? So give those people an area where they can also enjoy the game. I think it's important to have some safe zones for people. but give also the PvP world to some people. Give them 2 servers. I think that is the best solution.
The economy has. I was heavily focused on the economic side of New World. It is what I specialize in after all, and I have never witnessed a crash at the launch of an MMORPG quite like a New Worlds. For weeks, players couldn't even afford to repair because every single material was worthless. It was made worthless because the game that was supposed to be designed around contesting materials with PvP allowed players to just ignore this particular gate and turn off their PvP like the careless dad gamers they are and chop trees forever.
Not a great plan.
Ashes of Creation is very different in this regard and is handling PvP in a way that complements sandbox gameplay by protecting the one thing that actually matters, the economy. Something the modern player base seems to have forgotten is that you can actually balance your own risks. You decide when the risk is too high for you in terms of what you could drop out of your inventory. That is quite literally the beauty of player agency and why.
Or you just give a chance for something to be obtained. Like, don't make it where you chop down a tree and you get all the wood materials needed. Like, I actually, the system, like, you know where I like to farm the most in MMO, where I have the most fun farming mats and where I actually like the economy sort of? This is Elder Scrolls Online. Because there, if you, for example, go to some ore or some wood and you cut this down, you get raw materials, but you have to refine the raw materials, and you sometimes have the chance to get more than just raw materials. And it's like this small chance, like, oh, this is 2 or 3% chance that you get more than this. Same when it comes to refining. You have mats to improve your gear from green to blue to purple to gold, right? And those have like a very small chance to actually drop. Sometimes you need to refine over 100 pieces of wood to get 1 golden improvement mat. And I think the best solution for this is, for the economy, same with New World, make it where either you get sometimes very little wood from cutting down a tree, even though it is like a big tree, and sometimes you can get for a smaller tree maybe more wood, or add some super rare materials that have only a 1 or 2% drop chance per tree, or something that is rare and that you actually need a lot in a game. Because then it's a grind, right? Like, oh, you're grinding, everyone is farming, but you only get a few of those. And they actually go up in price then, right? Because they are rare. So the economy is saved and it's still connected with farming. So yeah.
Why MMORPGs used to be so fun. You were the one making the choices, not the game creating rigid theme park-esque rules and telling you how, when, and why you should be playing. Unless you're corrupted, you won't drop any gear. Therefore, Ashes of Creation is not a full loot PvP MMO. If anyone tells you it is, they are woefully uneducated. But there has to be some incentive for PvP, or it just ends up bland with no real meaning to anything.
True.
AKA modern theme park MMOs. Now, the balance of all this is 100-fold. Obviously, over the years as MMOs became more shallow, less and less content was available to players who actually want MMORPGs.
Holy shit. I have a better idea actually. Or one that maybe can work, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section what you think about this thought. Or how about PvP you need to be max level and it gets enabled? And if you're low level, you have to choose if you want it or not. Like, if they really don't want to have 2 servers, shouldn't they make PvP only available at max level where it's like everywhere? And if you're low level, you can choose to do it and manually turn it on. I'm not sure how they're gonna implement that, but I think it should be based on either gear or max level. Like, you have to hit a certain number for PvP to become open world PvP. Because that way the casuals and the newcomers, they are protected. Because the only issue why open world PvP is an issue is because people, some are just questing, leveling their character, and they get constantly interrupted and harassed, and they have no chance because they get 2-3 shot because they have low stats because they are low level or they don't have the gear yet. And I just think those people need a protection. And this is what makes a game stay alive also, because people are not leaving. I think that is what they could also consider. PvP only at max level, and if you are like not max level, it is only by choice.
Which means the actual PvP content available is a very, very important aspect of any MMO. You need to have multiple ways of engaging in content. If there is only one endgame dungeon and everyone is camping
map
that,
looks
then
nice.
it does become a boring gank fest where only the top PvP guild can succeed. However, if there are 10, 20, 30 dungeons and the community is spread all across these, the choice to move and contest somewhere else is always an option, and an option that has been missing in pretty much every MMO up until Ashes of Creation. This
combat
goes for
looks
the
nice,
plethora
right, guys?
of open PvP zones Intrepid have begun revealing to us as well. The oceans, the newly revealed ruins mechanic, and of course, the one I predict will be most common, the caravans. What I think is important to realize here is that Steven and the team have a lot of experience with PvP in MMORPGs as outlined by his comment. But for now though, here in pre-Alpha 2, personally, I think it's pointless to talk about a mechanic that was so broken that it literally got disabled in the first few hours of Alpha 1. So let's take a moment to stop overdosing and remind ourselves this game is still many years away from release. We're not even in a public alpha testing phase yet, so of course Intrepid are going to be innovating, testing, and changing their PvP systems to be the best possible version it can be. And it's down to us as testers and you guys, as innocent bystanders, to provide the correct feedback. Ashes of Creation has a lot of systems governing its PvP alone, and without PvP, this game ceases to even function. So let's end today's video pressing this particular topic because I think it is a very important one to touch upon indeed. Ashes of Creation isn't made for 90% of the modern MMORPG player base. The point of Ashes of Creation is to show that 90% how an MMORPG is actually supposed to be made. None of our currently popular MMOs are actually MMOs. They've devolved into single-player lobby games that give you the illusion of a massively multiplayer world because you can see the odd pleb running around playing their own single-player experience. In my opinion, the reason why MMOs are a dying genre is because it's lost its soul. It's lost its purpose to make way for the shallow, talentless corporate trash monetized out the wazoo with predatory, convenience-based practices. It's okay that Ashes of Creation isn't for you. You have your
I think this is my issue with like modern MMOs. I think PvE is too easy. Same with questing. If you're questing through WoW Classic, for example, you have like sometimes a challenge where you need to find another player and just whisper them, hey, you're also here, do you have this quest? Can we do this together because I can't kill this elite by myself? And then you group up with another person or even more people. Sometimes there are like some quests where you need 3 or 4 people even to finish that, right? And this is what also is very important. Now if I look at like a lot of MMOs, ESO is a good example. You walk into 10-20 mobs and you can all nuke them while questing. This is how weak they are. Same with retail. Like when I'm leveling, grinding up a new character on retail, I seldom drop low health. I only drop low health in like WoW Classic because there are struggles sometimes. But in WoW retail is also too easy now, PvE questing. Like you just one-shot sometimes stuff. Like literally. And this is the issue, I think. They need to make PvE in modern MMOs a bit more difficult. And not just dungeons or the super competitive stuff like Mythic Plus runs and stuff in WoW. No, do like regular PvE content like questing and stuff, or even the simple dungeons. Like buff them a bit, make it a bit more difficult. Like give them maybe 20% more health and damage the mobs or something, or 30%. Like do something that is a bit more challenging. I think this is important.
I mean, well, actually, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Your trash MMOs that cater to your lazy, shallow mentality in the form of Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft, and whatever else bends over backwards to shove convenience up your already torn up arsehole. I want to touch on a comment I see very often from not only the copium addicts feverishly consuming information related to this non-existent game, but also from a lot of YouTubers much larger than myself. I want Ashes of Creation Creation to survive, or
Yeah.
I want Ashes of Creation to be big. And this comment rubs me the wrong way, because you're trying to advocate for things that quite literally killed the MMORPG genre. If you
High
want Ashes of
expectation.
Creation to succeed, you should be focused on improving the core design pillars, the social, meaningful, and satisfying progression that MMORPGs offered us back in their peak, back in the golden age, not these modern day convenient systems and hand-holding gameplay that caters to the lowest denominator. Let us have our PvP. If it fails, it fails, but at least we tried. I don't want another MMORPG reskinned with the exact same thing the other generic 500
Yeah.
copy-pasted MMOs did before. If you don't like the prospects of Ashes of Creation, that's okay. Steven has said many times, Ashes of Creation is not going to be for everyone. I'm okay with the game settling on a couple
Yeah,
of
sometimes
100,000
niche games
players.
are nice
I
too.
don't need the game to have millions or to dethrone World of Warcraft for that top spot. That's not the point of this project. The point is to prove that a true open-world PvP MMO can thrive in this age of single-player trash and still sustain itself without compromising its monetization with pay-to-win elements. If it succeeds at that, I truly believe it will spark a new era for this genre, because
Could
it will
be.
remind everyone exactly why World of Warcraft had 12 million players back in 2008. But as usual, I am just one nerd desperate for a good MMO, and my opinions mean nothing without yours in the comments below. And hey, I heard you like watch parties, and considering I've nothing to shill here at the end of this video, why not come and join our humble Discord community and waste your life talking about an MMO that quite literally doesn't even exist. Additionally, we will, as always, be hosting a watch party for this month's upcoming artisan-focused livestream.
But Narc, nobody cares about your trash watch party. You didn't even bother to do one for Pantheon
heck?
this month. I'm highly disappointed.
And to that I say, listen kid, Pantheon doesn't even have convincing concept art, let alone PvP, so why you're bringing up Pantheon again during this video is completely random and, quite frankly, nobody fucking asked. It's almost like you're just trying to artificially gaslight your game using my platform because, you know, we're high on copium.
This was interesting. But yeah, like, it is tough these days because, like, the thing is about, this is something I'm also worried about when it comes to the release of Ashes of Creation. If the PvP is too heavy and like casual players have a hard time, what stops them from trying out other MMOs or playing maybe their old MMO again? Like, there needs to be something that makes people get stuck in Ashes of Creation to not return or to go to another game again, because I don't know, like, I think the fear that I have is that like low level players and those questing and those that don't have best in slot gear are being constantly ganked by like maxed out players and those that started playing Ashes of Creation from launch and that are like miles ahead literally in progress. So I think those people, they need a special protection. Those that are like low level or that are just questing, don't have good gear yet, they need to unlock this. Like, there needs to be a place for the casuals and the PvE players, because this is the majority of all players and we have to be aware of that. This is like, I see more bad players than I see good players in any game. It is always like that, and you need an area for the bad players too, right? And a safe area where they cannot be harassed, because we have a lot of toxic people as well online these days. And it gets, almost feels like it gets worse every year. Like, maybe back in the day people were like brought up more strict by their parents, I don't know, but people like would even sometimes, like I said, in the good old vanilla days in vanilla WoW, like sometimes people would actually spare low level players or those that were AFK. But I think these days you don't have that many that would actually spare those people, and some that actually take great pleasure in harassing and doing this to low level and weak players. So yeah, they need a safe zone or some feature or something. I think it's important, or there needs to be 2 servers 2 servers is probably the best solution. But if they don't want to do that, how about making PvP only enabled once you reach max level or you finish the main story or something? Like, there needs to be some sort of switch that gets turned on at a certain progress point, because then those people that have no chance anyway, so it's pointless for them to do PvP. I mean, what is if you have a character that puts out 500 damage with a skill on a player that has like hundreds of thousands of health? And they deal to you each hit 30-40k damage, and you only 500. Like, it's not gonna work. Like, you can never ever win against this person. If this person keeps chasing you and kills you 10 times in a row, you may be gonna log out, and the next time you're at your computer and you see all the games you have available, you will maybe hesitate to log in again, because you will think, oh, what if there's some asshole again that keeps killing me all the time? Like, what should I do? Oh no, I don't want this. Yeah, like, I don't know, they need some protection or something. I think the casuals and the newcomers, like those that are like still noobs. I mean, everyone is a noob at some point. We improve over time. But yeah, guys, that's it for today's video. If you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.